Marathon time. There we are. Hello, everybody. Hello. Welcome to another edition of So That's How You Do It with Sizzle Force Marketing. I am excited today because you guys don't just have to see my face and hear my voice. You get to actually see a much more beautiful face with another Stephanie, except she spells her name wrong.
This is true.
So you look at mine's with a PH, hers is with an F.
My mother was a fan of Stephanie Powers, the 80s actress who I've never actually seen in a TV show or a movie, which is kind of sad when you think about it, considering I'm deaf for her.
So Stephanie is one of the copywriters on our team here at Sizzle Force Marketing, and I'm so excited that she's here today to share some wisdom with you guys on copywriting. And Steph has been writing copy for several years. She's written for many of our clients, and also is the leader of an incredible writing group up in Los Angeles. So she lives in the heart of it, where like the world's greatest writers live in Los Angeles and Hollywood, right? Doing all the things. So she's in the zone. And those of you guys that may be tuning in for the first time or aren't aware of this, I've been writing copy for 26 years. So we know a thing or two about writing copy, don't you think, Steph?
Think so. Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
People at like a few $1 billion. So we want to share with you guys today some things about copywriting, right? Some common questions that we hear and some things that are important for you to know as business owners. Now, if you're watching this and you own a company, fantastic. You should be relaying this to whoever helps you with marketing. And if you don't have somebody helping you with marketing and you're doing it all yourself, well, then take fast and furious notes because we've got a lot for you today. I think that's going to do it. I think that's good. So we're going to jump right in here. Before we dig right into the questions, though, real quick, I just want to let y'all know that we appreciate your questions and your comments. So if you are joining us live right now and you have questions or comments, please go ahead and throw them up for us because we want to know what they are. And if you're watching this after the fact, so be it. You can also put comments and questions for us and we will check them and we will get back to you as soon as we can. So, copywriting is hard. A lot of people think copywriting is really hard. And the truth is, it can be. It's a skill that takes years to develop. And I can tell you guys confidently, even as a copywriter who has literally been paid to do this for 26 years, I am still learning every single day how to do it better, how to get better results. Steph, would you agree? Is the same thing true for you?
Yeah, and I feel like I'm constantly reading articles and books, and it's just kind of a constant quest for knowledge too, to see how, for me, I think that the way that copywriting has kind of evolved over the years is, I think, informational, but also kind of how it stayed the same, and how there's kind of these core concepts that have kind of worked since the beginning of time. And then there are other ones that are specifically kind of addressing specific audiences and challenges that we have in kind of a modern world. And really to kind of, it's like you kind of have to get this classical, if you will, quote unquote, classical training. But then on top of that, you also have to kind of know how to keep growing and changing with trends and with audiences that don't respond to the same things that they responded to at, say, the turn of the century.
Right, and different mediums, right? We write copy one way for a print piece, right? Like maybe, let's say it's a brochure, a sales brochure, right? We might write something one way for that, but then if we're writing copy for a Facebook ad, for example, there's a different way of doing it, right? Because it's on a different medium.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So tell me what you think the difference is between a copywriter and a good writer. Because one thing that I know is that I have heard over the years, I have heard many people say to me when we talk about the need for copywriting, oh, you know what? My sister's a really good writer, or I'm a good writer, so I can do this. So tell me your thoughts, Steph, on the difference between a copywriter and a good writer.
Yeah, I think that, I mean, it's complicated, but it's also simple. I mean, basically copywriting to me is you have something, it's persuasion. It's writing something to persuade or to you know, to sell. Copywriting is about selling a product or a service or whatever. And that can be, and that's not just with marketing. I mean, it's interesting how since I've started copywriting, how I look at even things like when people send me that I get, you know, because I'm a writer. So people send me stuff, friends and stuff, they'll send me things for feedback and they'll say, hey, will you weigh in on my cover letter for this job? Or will you weigh in on my resume? Or will you weigh in on even emails that they're really worried about? Like they're, you know, talking to an employer about something that's like a sticky issue or something like that. And it's so interesting because the way that I would have read those, you know, in a different part of my life, I think I would have read it more for grammar and for you know, is this well written? Is it are the sentences constructed well? Does it convey a good meaning or whatever? You know, obviously you want some basic storytelling in anything that you're writing, or else people are going to get bored. So I'd be like, oh, is it boring? You know, but now when people send me these things, I'm thinking from a perspective of persuasion. And, you know, sometimes I give feedback, or I'll even it's just easier to kind of rewrite paragraphs for people and say, hey, just say it this way. And it's so funny when they respond to that and they go, oh yeah, like I'm way more convinced at what I'm saying now than I was before. And it wasn't that what they were writing before was bad. It was probably really good. But it just wasn't going to accomplish what they were trying to accomplish, whether that was getting the job or yes, it wasn't going to get them the job. And I think, you know, a lot of that is so many times, like it's easy when we're writing to focus on us and to focus on what we what we have to offer and convince people like, I'm good enough, we're good enough, this thing is good enough. When really, you know, and this is another thing with copywriting, as you know, Steph, it's really not about us, it's about the audience. And that's the other main thing I think is the difference between copywriting and regular writing. With copywriting, you cannot be thinking about yourself. You always have to be thinking about yourself in context of your audience and what they're thinking and what their motivations and desires are.
Yeah, totally. Okay, talk to us about Taco Bell and the dog.
Oh, so I know someone who used to be on the marketing team at Taco Bell, and it was so funny. And this is way before marketing was a twinkle in my eye or anything. But I remember having a conversation with her and asking, you know, kind of what happened to the Chihuahua. And I remember her saying the Chihuahua was so memorable. People would remember the Chihuahua, but we just never saw any sort of increase in actual sales. And I think that's the other thing about copywriting is that you can write something that's memorable. You can write something that is catchy, but that doesn't mean that it's going to necessarily sell anything. And I think about this a lot, even with ads that I see nowadays. I mean, sometimes I'm like, what's the ad that had that really cool sequence with, you know, I don't know, a gymnast? I don't know. I can't be specific here, but there's really some very cool dynamic ads that I see. But if you ask me who the company was that promoted that ad or what it was actually selling, I couldn't tell you. I could probably line by line tell you the really cutesy, funny thing that it said, or, you know, the fact that it had a cute animal in it or whatever. But I could not tell you what it was selling, and nor did I go buy whatever it was selling. But I sure enjoyed the ad for entertainment value. So that's the other thing about copywriting, is that it's not just there for entertainment. While entertainment is good and you want people to be entertained by what you're saying as you're copywriting because they'll engage more, it is about more than that. It's not just about being memorable. It's about compelling people to take action.
That's right. That's right. Okay. So yeah, yo quiero Taco Bell, I think is what I always to say. And I think anybody who's old enough to remember it does remember it, right? But the bottom line is copywriting is designed to sell, right? It's not necessarily designed just for branding reasons, which is what's happening by entertaining and being memorable, right? There's a mix between the two. So, you know, when it comes to knowing what works, right? What are some tips that you have for us here?
Well, I think that you have to think about yourself. What are the things that when you feel like somebody's trying to sell you something and your walls go up, what are the things that you want them to say to make you feel better? And I think, first of all, authenticity, starting from an authentic place is always probably like the number one thing with copywriting, especially now, especially with the culture that we're in right now, with the world we're living in, with the fact that people can fact check anything that you say with a simple keystroke. And I think that people require authenticity. They don't want to be sold to the same way that people did, like I was mentioning before, like at the turn of the century, where I think you could kind of write these ads that were a little bit over the top in not a good way. So I think authenticity.
Don't we all like sniff out stuff like that and kind of find ourselves repulsed by it? Like I'm always amazed that there's still images of 20-something-year-old guys standing in front of their Ferrari in a picture of a Facebook ad saying, I made $1 million yesterday doing this one trick. I mean, I think we're all smart enough to know now that, you know what, real businesses aren't built in a day, right? There's no way, 20-year-old, that you actually own that. Now, that's not to say you can't own it when you're 20, because we all know you can. But you didn't earn enough money to buy that by making this one change in one day, right? And it's just kind of like, yuck. It's like, come on. I mean, you're just trying to, I don't know, fill up your own ego. There's nothing authentic about it. And when you break that trust, right, even before you've established it, right, you have positioned yourself as untrustworthy in the marketplace. It's just like taking you from here to just like a nosedive, crash and burn as fast as you can.
It's funny that you said this specifically about the 20-something-year-old in front of a Ferrari or whatever. And I followed this account. It's funny because we're talking about being memorable, and I couldn't tell you the name of the actual account. It has to do with business and investing. It's like a Forbes type thing, but they give like tips and tricks on, finances and like, how you can invest in savings and things like that. And the other day, the guy who runs the stream, he had a reel of himself. He said something like, yesterday I was broke and today and then he just shows himself walking up to this Ferrari and they're like uncovering the Ferrari. And then at the very end of it, I think it was a Ferrari. I'm sorry, I don't know luxury cars. Maybe it was a Lamborghini. I have no idea what it was. Luxury cars are not my area of expertise. It's actually sort of funny how badly I do not know luxury cars. Anyway, but so they're uncovering the Lamborghini and you're waiting for the I figured out how to go from like being broke to this in one, or like you're saying, in one day. And then at the end of it, he goes, just kidding. I did not buy a Lamborghini today. I'm far from buying a Lamborghini.
That is a relief that he was honest.
Yeah, and I think he got so many likes on that post and probably so many more followers. And, the fact that, yes, he is giving advice, but he's not, his authority, I think, was actually was elevated by that, because we feel like we can trust him now, that when he gives us tips, he's not just, like talking. He actually is being real with us. So
So important. So true. Okay, so formulas. Can we talk about formulas? Because there's a lot of copywriting formulas. There are times when certain things work, when you should use a formula. There are other times when you should not use a formula. And there are formulas that people will swear by, but really, almost intuitively that you need to break the rules and jack up the formula a little bit to get better results. So can you talk to us about that?
yeah, I think there are about 1,000 bajillion. There's as many formulas as there are different cryptocurrencies right now. My husband was scrolling through the cryptocurrency list. I said to him, I'm like, how many cryptocurrencies are there? Because I don't know anything about cryptocurrencies, but he's interested in it. He kind of geeks out on it. And he goes, oh, you want me to read them off to you? And he's like reading them off to me. And I'm like, pancake swap? What is that? What does that even mean? Shiba Inu? What does that even mean? What is this? Anyway, so there's so many formulas. But to me, they all basically boil down to the same, like the original one. I could not tell you who coined it. I don't know if it was Ogilvy or I'm guessing it was probably him, but I don't know who originally said it. But the AIDA formula, and the reason I like it as a formula is because it's not, in a way, I don't think it is a formula. I think it is so flexible, and there's a reason. There's 1,000 variations on it, and that's what I like about it. Is you just go back to the basics. So, AIDA says the first thing is getting people's attention, which is the hardest part, right? With the thousands and thousands of other things you're competing with, from the dog, as one of our coworkers was saying this morning, she woke up to the sound of the cat vomiting on her floor. There's those distractions. There's those distractions of just like life, right? Like you've got those distractions. Then you have like your cell phone's distractions. Then you have like all the things that are going on in your head, distractions. So if you've gotten somebody's attention in the first place, then you've like made major progress. So that's the first part of the formula, is getting people's attention. Once you get their attention, you have to keep it. And the I stands for interest. So, and then once you've got their interest, you need to start thinking about what is it that they want. And that's the D. The D stands for desire. You've got their attention. They're starting to get interested in what you have to say. The desire is the part where the sales come in, right? The persuasion, you have a problem and we genuinely have a way to help you solve it. And then at the very end, the AIDA stands for action. So the final thing is saying, hey, here's the action you can take. You have a problem. We've talked about your problem. Here's how we can solve it. And here's how you can work on solving it and take a step towards solving that problem right now.
Yeah.
So and the formula, again, it's like, that's the basic formula, but there's so many things that go within that. Like, for example, back to the whole thing with like having the walls up, it's things like addressing people's objections, thinking ahead. Like if I was in their shoes and I was listening to myself and I was actually speaking my mind and what I'm actually thinking, but too nice to say out loud, what would my objections be? Thinking ahead what their objections might be and addressing them before they even bring it up. Being mind readers a little bit is kind of something that a copywriter has to be. You have to kind of read people's minds. And then also, relieving their fear of relieving their fear of taking a risk, by addressing those objections.
Yeah, that's good. And fear is a real thing, you guys. I mean, fear, sometimes it's a loaded word, right? And sometimes people are like, well, I don't fear buying a new lipstick, right? Or, what I fear dying in a car accident, right? Sometimes people put it into like extremes. And the truth is, there usually is a fear associated with every choice that we make, right? You maybe don't think of it this way, but no, you're not fearful of buying lipstick. But for an example, is there a concern, right, that the shade could look bad on you, right? You could buy something that's red and it's got more orange hues than blue hues. And orange looks terrible on you, like me. Orange looks terrible on me. But a blue hued red shade is gonna look good, right? So, we say fear, but be mindful of the fact that it doesn't have to be like a life altering fear. It could just be a concern, right? Steph, would you agree with that?
Yeah, and I think that with your lipsticks example, I think the thing I'm noticing, and I think this goes back to the generation that we live in with the specific lipstick example, but obviously they're getting into the minds of consumers and realizing that things like, I'm just giving examples here, but like eco-friendly packaging, community-based, like what's the word I'm looking for? Like philanthropic stuff, like where they'll mention things like 10% goes back to this or that charity. And also, I mean, I'm just noticing on packaging more and more that it's saying things like free from this, free from that, free from these harmful ingredients. I think companies
cruelty-free, never
yeah,
touch
cruelty free.
animals.
Yeah,
Right?
or free from sulfates. I don't even know.
Yeah, sulfates.
Yeah, so I think that they know that consumers are educated in a way that we never were before, and that they can't just put whatever they want. And so I think that that's a fear, or that's an objection that they know that people have in their brains, and right on the packaging, they're addressing it. And if you don't see that, I mean, it depends on who you are as a consumer, obviously, but I think a lot of consumers, and they know this, are worried about those things, are worried about chemicals that might not be good for them. So right off the bat, I don't know. I can't even, I just notice it's almost like in every single ad now has something about the ingredients, like wholesome ingredients, even for makeup, even for the stuff we're putting on our face that we're not even eating. They're still worrying about it.
Yeah, because they talk about how it gets in your bloodstream and yada, yada, yada. So yeah. So knowing what your ideal client fears is a really important part of writing good copy, because you need to address their fear/concern, whichever word you would rather write. Okay, as well as their deep desires, right? Maybe to them, ethical sourcing is a non-negotiable, right? Where they're just like, no, if something is made in a sweatshop in China, I am not going to buy it, period, end of story. Whereas somebody else is like, hey, low price leader, I'm going to Walmart, you know what I mean? And they don't care as much, right? So you have to know your buyers and what makes them tick and what triggers them, so that you can then write copy and messaging that appeals to them. So I know that you have an example of the law of reciprocity and Coca-Cola. You want to share that with us?
Yeah, I think that, we've kind of covered the basic formulas. And then I think the other level to copywriting is sort of kind of getting into the psychology of persuasion. There's a fellow, I'm probably going to say his name incorrectly, but his name is Robert. I know how it's spelled, Cialdini. Is it how you say it?
I think so. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So, I'm in the middle of his second book, but I'm also reading his first book. And then he talks a lot about the psychology of persuasion. And specifically, and I'm paraphrasing one of the studies that he did in his book, but I thought it was a really good example. So they had a group of people in an art museum. And again, I might be butchering this a little bit, but I know the gist of it is correct. They had a bunch of people in an art museum, and they had the museum tour guide taking them around the museum. And they wanted to see what actions they could take that would motivate people to give a donation at the end of the tour, because the tour was free, but they asked for donations at the end of the tour. So in this study, they had one set of people where and I think they did it a few times to make sure it wasn't just a one-off, like specific group of people, but they had one set where they just, did the tour and said, thank you so much for coming. We hope you enjoyed your tour. If you would be willing to donate some money, or buy a raffle ticket, I think is actually what it was. Would you be willing to buy some of our raffle tickets to help us raise money for our museum? They found that they had that one set of people. And then they had a second set of people where, and I think this is so funny and so silly. It was just the stupidest thing. The guy said, I'll be right back. I'm going to go. Does anybody need, I don't know if he said Coca-Cola or water or whatever, but he said, does anybody need a drink? And he came back with bottles of Coca-Cola or water. And they found that like just the simple act of him leaving, coming back and giving them a drink, that the percentage of people who bought raffle tickets at the end of that tour was like, they could replicate it. And that people were more willing to give back. And I think it's just instinctual with us that when somebody gives us something, and they make the first gesture of generosity, then it's just instinctual that we want to give back. And so, in your marketing and when it comes to copywriting, I think you can do that. That's just like, and again, doing it in an authentic way, saying what's something that I can give? How can I come from a place of giving first in a way that helps this person or my audience? And then, allowing them and giving them the opportunity to respond by supporting you and supporting your business and choosing you because you gave first.
Yeah. The law of reciprocity is really powerful. It's crazy because like most people don't talk about it out loud, right? But they always say in business too, givers gain. I think it's outside of business as well. It's just kind of in life, right? If somebody helps you with your kid in some situation, let's say there's a coach that gives a little extra batting practice time because your kiddo is a little scared of the ball, right? You're going to want to support that coach and you're going to want to get more kids on the team to play because maybe it helps him get a raise, or you're going to want to call his boss and say, so-and-so really did a good job, right? Something like that. So the endowment effect.
Yeah.
About that.
That's also in Robert's book. And that is basically the idea that people value things once they have a sense of owning them. And you can kind of convey this in, you'll see it, once you know about that, you'll kind of see this in copywriting and ads. They'll say things like, it's yours, just come and take it, a variation of that. This already is yours. You just need to come claim it. When you hear words like claim your free this or take your whatever, it's like they're already implying that it's yours. Mm-hmm. It's just that you haven't taken action to take what's already yours instead. So the endowment effect, and also in a physical sense, when you're at a shop, if you've ever had this happen to you where somebody will hand you something, they want you to hold it, right? Because they know that if you hold it, that even that action gives you this sense of possession. Mm-hmm. And that we all like to have, for better or for worse, we all like to have things and then we like them to be ours. And so even just the act of like having somebody hold something is something that is a small example or a variation of the endowment effect. That's why in the book, I think he talks about this, I've heard in other places, that they talk about return policies and they say, it's better to have generous return policies because people, once they have something, they're very hesitant to like give it back. They don't like giving things back. So if you have a generous return policy, it addresses the fear of loss, right? The risk aversion that we talked about earlier, because it's like, oh, well, if I don't like it, or it's not what I thought it was, then, what do I have to lose? People worry about it, but every statistic I've ever heard, feel free to correct me, anybody out there who's listening, but every statistic, every study I've ever heard says that having a generous return policy is absolutely positive for a business in your copywriting. It helps convince people that you are trustworthy, that you stand on your product enough to say, you know what, you don't like it, I'll give you back your money. And then people just usually don't use it. So, I'm not saying they never use it. I'm sure they do use it, but they're saying that the money you're going to make and the sales you're going to make because of offering it are going to far outweigh what you end up giving back.
Well, and that's what Nordstrom did, right? I don't know if they're still doing it because it seems like it's changed a lot. But for years and years and years, Nordstrom had the most generous return policy. And I had friends that worked at Nordstrom, and they would tell me crazy stories of people trying to return stuff that wasn't even Nordstrom like products, right? But then there were honest people and whatnot. Well, okay, Nordstrom sells the same clothes that you could buy at Macy's with a coupon for less, right? But part of their process of elevating their brand was having a generous return policy, and it worked for them clearly, right? The endowment effect about holding stuff, that it just made me think of something like, when you walk into a room of preschoolers, right? You've got, one kid grabbing whatever, scissors. Well, that's a bad example of the time.
I like it.
A ruler. Okay, because that's what's at my desk. So you've got one kid walking around with their ruler, okay? And then some other kid comes up, and typically before they've learned any manners, the other kid wants the ruler, doesn't say, "Oh, can I please have the ruler?" They grab it and say, "Mine." And then the other one grabs it back and says, "Mine." And then it's mine, mine, mine. And then there's tears and all of that, right? But it just kind of reminded me of the fact that when we touch something from a very young age, we claim possession over it, right? And it's something we do when we're 2, right? So it makes me think of that scene from Finding Nemo, the movie too, where the seagull lands. I don't know if you ever saw that, but any of you guys that saw Finding Nemo, a seagull lands in the picture, and you know how the seagull makes the same noise, you hear it over and over again in real life, and it just says, "Mine, mine, mine, mine."
I haven't seen it in a minute, but that sounds about right.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about the internet and how it has changed copywriting. And the internet's been around for a while now, right? But when I started my career, I started in newspaper because .com wasn't a thing, right? It was not a thing. I know I'm aging myself. I didn't even have a computer on my desk at my first job. And, so the internet's been around for a while, but things are still changing all the time with how we write copy on the internet versus, let's say, writing an academic paper, right? Like you might say something like, "Oh, I have a major in English." Well, super different. Let's talk about how the internet has changed copywriting stuff.
Well, I think we've touched on a couple of things already, but just to elaborate, I mean, I don't know how the young people in your life are. And by young, I'm going to say people that are around age 12, 15, 16, 17, 18. But I feel like they can multitask in a way that is just incredibly impressive to me. How they will have, the TV will be on and they're doing something. And in one hand, they've got their cell phone, and they're, chatting back and forth with people. And I don't even know, or even like, I don't really play video games myself, but I have many friends who do, and how they're playing these complicated games while they're simultaneously chatting with other people that are on their team or whatever. I just feel like technology has led people to be extreme multitaskers, and their brains can just comprehend a lot of information. And the industry and the world has risen to meet that. I mean, there's just so many things that we're just being inundated with information. That is cliche. We already know that. But I think that in terms of copywriting, if you don't get to your point fast, then that's it. You're done. They're not going to read the rest of. You could write the most beautifully written copy that's, would win a Pulitzer, and it will not matter because nobody's going to go past the first line. So I think that more than ever, you have to be quick and snappy, and your headlines have to be solid. I would also say that more than ever, people want. I mean, I think this has always been the case. I mean, I think like people saying like dentists choose this toothpaste, and the number one toothpaste dentists choose or whatever. I think that has always been around. I think that's a copywriting principle that has existed since the beginning of time. We don't know enough to know everything. I don't know about you, Steph, but I don't know a lot about toothpaste. It's not my area of expertise.
I'm actually a toothpaste aficionado. I'm always pressed.
So I think it's natural for us to look to other people to tell us that that we should buy something, or that we should do something, or that we should, to help us make decisions. And so I think more than ever, the internet has led to us not looking to a brand to tell us what decisions to make, like to not trust what's on a package. It has led us to look to our peers. And so I think the social proof is more important than ever, that we do look to our peers to tell us, yes, this is a good product. We look for, reviews. We ask for recommendations on social media platforms like Facebook more than ever. So I'd say that's one of the things the internet has changed. And then obviously people are more educated. You got to be on point on what you're saying, because if they pick up on one thing you're saying wrong, it's so funny when I listen to the podcast Stuff You Should Know a lot. It's one of my favorite podcasts. Mm-hmm. And it's so funny to me because I feel like the people who host the show are so educated, and they do their research, and they have their outline, and they do this whole episode about, it could be anything. It could be like alligators or winemaking, or it could be about the history of World War II or whatever. And they're so good. But it's so funny when you listen to future episodes where they do corrections from past episodes, and somebody's written them a letter and says, and it could be the most like minuscule mistake that they made. Like, it's like hardly, like 99% of people will not know that was wrong or could have been a little bit better. But man, they're going to get a letter about it. And I just think that that's the other thing. We have so much access to information, and to more people who have information and expertise that's like down to this granular level, that copywriting has also become a huge responsibility. We now have to be we have to be accurate. If we are inaccurate on anything, even a little bit, then it will be noticed, and somebody is going to point it out, and it is going to affect the authority of whoever we're writing for. And so, we've talked a little bit about robots and stuff like that, and how they're starting to do copywriting and stuff. And something I'm noticing is that while they write, I think I've noticed as I've looked at some of the tools and stuff, I'm just noticing that there's a lot of inaccuracies because they can't, data is science, right? But science is also how you interpret that data. And you can have 10 different people interpret the same data differently. And so, so accuracy, I think, and all of that to say accuracy, I think in the age of the internet is very important. And it's a lot of responsibility for us as copywriters.
Yeah. Let's talk about those robot copies. Because those are all that, at least in my Facebook feed, at like every day, they're like, this ad was written by a copywriter and you're reading it, right? I'm like, okay, but I'm not buying it. Okay? But some people are, because of course, it's human nature to want something really good, cheap, right? And that's kind of what they promise. But what are your thoughts on that?
I just haven't personally, I haven't tried every single tool for AI. I don't know if you have, Steph. I don't know if you've played with any of them at all, but I have. I am very curious. I am like curiosity killed the cat kind of person. So I really want to know. And I have, explored a couple of these tools to see, and I just haven't noticed that they're very good yet. Now, that being said, I think that for me with copywriting, how do I say this? This is what I personally think is going to happen. I don't know. I can't predict the future, but this is what I personally think is going to happen. I think that eventually AI is going to get to the point where it can write really, well-written copy, and that temporarily there's going to be a rush to have robots write copy for you. And then what I think is going to happen is like what happens with so many other things where, we want to, I think it's like we could go buy sourdough bread at the Trader Joe's, or we can make it ourselves with, the starter that somebody gave us and maybe one of our community or our friendship groups and things like that. I think at the end of the day, we all want an authentic experience. And as readers, we don't want to think that a robot wrote what we're reading. That just is not going to feel good. So while I think there is going to be a moment in time where robots are going to get really, really good at it, and I think it will increase in people using it, I think that, I hope anyway, or I
Job security.
yeah. Yeah, I just suspect that there will come a time when we as humans are going to kind of rebel against that, because we don't want to be reading stuff that was written by a robot. I don't think. I think we're all cool with like cars driving us, and stuff like that. That's cool. That's a mechanical thing. But we still want to drive sometimes, right? Some people just enjoy driving. They like the feeling of like driving and going for long drives. They find that fun. It's kind of the same thing. You can't replace that.
Well, and it kind of reminds me of, social media friendships versus face-to-face friendships, right? Okay. Like you could liken copywriting by a robot to social media friendships, right?
Yeah.
There's some strengths to it. It can, it can be good in some ways, right? But a face-to-face lunch with someone you love is always going to be more powerful and more meaningful and just fuel more good things than anything that can happen in a connection. You know what I mean? Don't you think it's kind of the same thing?
I completely agree. And I think that people are going to pick up on that as AI gets smarter. And, I mean, I don't know about you, but I'm already irritated when I use a chatbot that I can tell is clearly sounding like it's a human, but it's so obvious that it's not a human. And it actually makes me not trust the brand. It makes me feel like, I'm like, you know what? If you're going to use an AI chatbot, just say you're using an AI chatbot, because if you're going to name your chatbot, whatever, Frederick, I'm making up a name, but if you say Frederick is here, you even go as far as to like have a profile picture next to Frederick's name. And over time it becomes like clear. It's almost like you're being like, what's that word? Catfished or whatever online or whatever. Is that the word? I don't know.
I don't know.
Where like somebody has a fake profile on a dating profile or something, and then you meet them and they're like a completely different person. I think it's like the same thing. I'm like, you've just broken my trust. You're like trying to make me think that I'm talking to a human right now. And it's so obvious that I'm not talking to an actual human.
Right. Or the worst is when when you go online, there's a chat bot. It's got a picture of, some woman that looks like she's 30 and blonde and, whatever. And her name is Erica. Okay. And then let's say you don't get through customer support the way you need to. And you're like, Erica, can we actually bring this live right now and talk voice to voice because my problem isn't being solved? And then Erica gets on the phone, and Erica's actually a man with an Indian accent, right? And you're like, what? Right? Erica's a figment of my imagination. It does. It totally breaks trust. And trust is everything. Now, a lot of marketing companies aren't going to say that. A lot of them are like, hey, dude, if you can sell dirt at a profit, then do it, right? Can you sell air? Awesome. Do it and make yourself a fortune. It's just not what we believe here at Sizzleforce. We believe in authenticity and relationships and trust and really selling products and services to companies and people because it's going to help them, not just because it's going to make a buck. Okay. Now, at the same time, can you really, really help somebody and make a very lucrative living? You absolutely can, and you should.
Yes.
Right. But just selling something to sell it,
Yeah.
I turn down opportunities. I had somebody call just last week to asking me if I would write copy for a certain type of product. And quite frankly, I think that product is very dangerous, right?
Mm.
Could I have made a ton of money on it? Yeah, because they had a fat marketing budget, right? Could I have made a ton of money? Yes. Could we have sold a bunch of stuff and made the people that run the company a ton of money? Yes, I'm sure we could have. Does the marketplace want that product? Yes, they absolutely do. But is it actually making the world a better place? In my humble opinion, no.
Yeah.
In my humble opinion, it's dangerous and it's not something that I want any part in marketing, right? So, and you guys, this is an independent decision that people have to make. But if you want to work with marketers who think like us, well, hello, it's nice to meet you. So we're going to go ahead and wrap this up. Steph, you're just brilliant, and I'm so honored that you're on our team.
Oh.
I love the way you serve our clients. And for those of you guys that are not aware of this, so we have two divisions of Sizzleforce. We have Sizzleforce Marketing, which is the agency side of our company, where we serve companies primarily that are doing 2 to 10 million in revenue a year, and we get their marketing done for them. We just are their agency of record. And then we have Sizzleforce Marketing Academy, which is where we teach smaller businesses, and whether it's the business owner or it's a marketing manager, something like that, we teach them how to market effectively in today's landscape, because it's different than it's ever been before. Even as recent as COVID stuff, and how people respond to marketing in the midst of COVID, in the midst of civil unrest, in the midst of political instability. There's all kinds of new things on the table right now that change the way that marketing works, right? So we teach our Academy members what works now in marketing, and it's super fun. And Steph is one of our teachers. So she is in the Academy. She's also on the agency side writing stuff for our clients. And then we have other people on our team who are equally awesome. So if you guys are interested in working with us and getting a little taste test to see, are they any good? Can I really learn anything from them? Can they really help me? I would like to invite you to take a complimentary taste test with us. And here's how that works. October 25th through the 29th, we are doing something we call the Small Business Marketing Challenge. And it is, like I said, complimentary. It lasts for 5 days. It's a Monday through a Friday, but don't worry, it is not all day, because I know nobody has time for that. Ain't nobody got time for that, right? What it is for 1 hour every day for 5 days, we are going to teach you something about a marketing fundamental that is going to move your business forward. Okay, we're all about getting stuff done around here. All of you guys have enough knowledge. You don't really need to know a whole lot more. You need to get your stuff done to move your business forward. And so that's what the marketing challenge is all about. There's a lot that goes into it. So what I would like to do is invite all of you guys to take a look at the page that we have that tells you what we're going to do all 5 days, which you'll find if you look in the lower third. You can see the URL. I'll say it out loud: sizzleforceacademy.com/challenge. We are running this October 25th through the 29th. If you want to participate in this complimentary challenge where you're going to get over $1,000 in services for free, you have to register. Okay. So you go to sizzleforceacademy.com/challenge. You register. That will reserve your seats. This is not something that you can sign up for and then download and save on your computer to watch in 3 years, because we're taking it away. We want you to make things happen. We want you to move forward. And so this is like a show up live or watch the recording that night. And if you miss it, you miss it. Snooze, you lose.
So you do not want to miss it. Steph is an incredible, incredible teacher with so much wisdom to offer. So it would be a shame to miss what she's got.
Thank you. I should say I could pay you for saying that, but I kind of already did because you're my employee.
Yeah, that was a freebie. And I'll add that not only is she a phenomenal teacher with so much knowledge to share, but you're fun to watch and you're funny. You crack me up in your videos, so in a good way.
That's fun. So thank you, Steph. That's kind of you. You guys, I would love for you to join us in the Small Business Marketing Challenge. It's amazing. We get incredible reviews on it every time we do it. And I know you guys are going to find a ton of value. And like I said, it seriously is $1,000 worth of training that you will get absolutely for free. All you have to bring to the table is your time, an hour a day for 5 days. So sign up, save your seat, and show up, because we're not letting you add it to the list of things that get dusty in your computer and never get done. So we will be back for one more live training before the Small Business Marketing Challenge starts. And that is next week, where we are going to be talking about content writing. And you might be like, well, we just had this whole thing on copywriting. They're different, my friends. They are different, very different. And so we are excited to share with you again next week. Same bad time, same bad channel, all the good stuff. And it's actually Steph's birthday next week. So happy birthday, Steph. She is going to be, her husband is whisking her away.
Yes, he is.
Yes, to celebrate. So again, you guys sign up for the challenge and join us. We're going to have so much fun. You're going to make so much forward progress. And we'll see you again next week. And then after that, we're going to be all hands on deck getting ready to give you tons of free value in the challenge. So we'll see you guys soon. And thank you for your time.
Bye, everybody.